Master Sergeant Diana Walsh stood in the Riverside County Superior Court in California, her army dress uniform pristine despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. The morning sun streamed through tall windows, illuminating dust particles that danced in the air like the anxiety in her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. A simple traffic stop 3 months ago had spiraled into something unthinkable. Now she faced charges of impersonating a military officer and wearing unauthorized decorations. The prosecutor claimed her medals were fake, her service record fabricated. Judge Patricia Coleman, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled into a tight bun, looked down at Diana with barely concealed disgust. "Ms. Walsh, you stand accused of stolen valor, a serious offense against those who truly served our nation." "Your Honor," Diana's court-appointed attorney, Paul Martinez, stood up. He was young, overwhelmed, and clearly out of his depth. "My client maintains that her service record is legitimate. She served 15 years in the Army, including 4 combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan." The prosecutor, Richard Stone, laughed openly. Stone was a heavyset man who'd made a career out of high-profile cases. "Your Honor, we've investigated thoroughly. No one at the Pentagon can verify this woman's claimed achievements. She's wearing a silver star, bronze stars, a purple heart. The likelihood of a female soldier earning such decorations is virtually zero." Diana's jaw tightened. She wanted to speak to defend herself, but Martinez had warned her to stay quiet. "Furthermore," Stone continued, pulling up a presentation on the courtroom screen, "Ms. Walsh claims to have been part of classified operations. How convenient that her most heroic deeds are hidden behind a veil of secrecy." The courtroom was half full, mostly local reporters and curious citizens. Diana recognized her landlord in the back row, no doubt wondering if he'd rented to a fraud. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, sat in the middle, her face full of disappointment. Judge Coleman leaned forward. "Ms. Walsh, I've reviewed the evidence. Your so-called military ID looks suspicious. Your DD-214 discharge papers could easily be forged. And these medals," she gestured dismissively at Diana's chest, "anyone can buy these online." "Your Honor," Martinez tried again, "we've submitted requests for verification to the Department of Defense. These things take time." "We've waited 3 months," Judge Coleman interrupted. "The Department of Defense's silence speaks volumes. They clearly have no record of Ms. Walsh's service." Diana knew why the Pentagon hadn't responded. Her last 5 years of service had been with a unit that didn't officially exist. Special Operations Support Activity, the Army of Northern Virginia. The activity. Different names for the same ultra-classified intelligence unit. Her records were buried so deep that even most generals didn't have access. "Ms. Walsh," Judge Coleman addressed her directly, "you were pulled over for speeding. When the officer saw your military ID, he thanked you for your service. You could have left it at that. Instead, you felt the need to elaborate, to spin tales of heroism and classified missions." "That wasn't what happened. The officer had accused her ID of being fake because it had special clearance markers. She'd simply tried to explain, but Stone had twisted everything in his prosecution." "I've seen this before," the judge continued. "People desperate for respect, for recognition, who create elaborate fantasy lives. It's pathetic, frankly." Diana felt her hands clench into fists behind her back. Pathetic. She thought of the soldiers she'd saved, the intelligence she'd gathered that prevented attacks, the nights she'd spent behind enemy lines. All classified, all unverifiable in a public court. Stone stood again, sensing victory. "Your Honor, we request that Ms. Walsh immediately remove those medals. Real veterans are in this courtroom today, and they find this display deeply offensive." Diana glanced back and saw 2 men in VFW caps nodding in agreement. They didn't know. They couldn't know. "I agree," Judge Coleman said. "Ms. Walsh, remove those medals immediately, or I'll have the bailiff do it for you." Diana felt the world tilt. Those medals weren't just decorations. The Silver Star was for the night she'd infiltrated a terrorist cell in Syria, gathering intelligence that saved an entire Marine battalion from ambush. The Bronze Stars were for operations she couldn't even name in court. The Purple Heart was for the shrapnel still embedded in her hip from an IED in Afghanistan. "I won't remove them," Diana said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was steady, controlled. "They were earned with blood and sacrifice." Judge Coleman's face flushed red. "Bailiff." The courtroom doors burst open with such force they banged against the walls. Everyone turned. 3 figures walked in, but it was the one in the middle who made the entire room freeze. General Marcus Thompson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest-ranking military officer in the United States. 4 stars gleamed on his shoulders. His chest bore more ribbons than Diana's, each one representing decades of service. Behind him walked 2 full-bird colonels. The silence was absolute. Even Judge Coleman's mouth hung open. General Thompson walked down the center aisle, his dress shoes clicking on the marble floor with military precision. He stopped directly in front of Diana, and then, in full view of everyone, snapped to attention and saluted her. "Master Sergeant Walsh," his voice filled the courtroom. "I apologize for the delay. We came as soon as we could." Diana returned the salute, her hand trembling slightly. "Sir." Thompson turned to face Judge Coleman, who looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Your Honor, I'm General Marcus Thompson. I believe there's been a grave misunderstanding about Master Sergeant Walsh's service record." Stone scrambled to his feet. "General, I don't know what you've been told, but we have evidence." "You have nothing." Thompson's voice could have frozen water. "You have the absence of information which you've mistaken for evidence of fraud. There's a significant difference." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope marked "Classified, EYES only." "Your Honor," Thompson said, "what I'm about to reveal has been authorized by the President of the United States specifically for this proceeding. Master Sergeant Diana Walsh is one of the most decorated intelligence operatives in United States military history. Her records were classified at the highest levels for national security reasons." Judge Coleman found her voice. "General, surely you can understand our skepticism." "No," Thompson interrupted. "I cannot understand how a traffic stop turned into stolen valor charges without anyone conducting proper verification through military channels. One phone call to my office would have prevented this travesty." He opened the envelope and began reading. "Master Sergeant Diana Walsh, 15 years of service, 4 Bronze Stars, 2 with Valor devices, 1 Silver Star for actions in Syria that remain classified, 3 Purple Hearts for wounds received in combat operations, Intelligence Star for exceptional service with joint CIA military operations." He looked up at Stone. "Would you like me to continue, because I have 3 pages of commendations here?" The courtroom remained frozen as General Thompson continued reading from the classified file. Each word seemed to strike Prosecutor Stone like a physical blow. "Operation Desert Falcon, Iraq, 2016, Thompson read. "Master Sergeant Walsh infiltrated an ISIS command cell in Mosul. The intelligence she gathered led to the elimination of 7 high-value targets and saved an estimated 200 civilian lives." Diana stood rigidly at attention, memories flooding back. That operation had taken 3 months. 3 months of pretending to be someone else, of being one wrong word away from execution. She'd come back 15 pounds lighter with nightmares that still woke her. "Operation Night Whisper, Afghanistan, 2018, Thompson continued. "Master Sergeant Walsh identified and neutralized a suicide bombing network targeting schools in Kabul. 13 bombers intercepted, 400 children's lives saved." Mrs. Chen in the gallery gasped. Diana had lived next to her for 2 years, always quiet, always polite, never mentioning any of this. Thompson pulled out a tablet and connected it to the courtroom's screen. "Your Honor, I have declassified footage from Master Sergeant Walsh's helmet camera. May I?" Judge Coleman nodded weakly. The footage was grainy night vision green. Diana watched herself on screen, that younger version, moving through a compound in Syria. Audio was muted for classification reasons, but the visuals were clear enough. Enemy fighters, a fierce firefight, Diana dragging a wounded CIA operative to safety while under heavy fire. "That operative she saved," Thompson said, pointing at the screen, "is now the deputy director of the CIA. He wanted to be here today, but he's overseas. He sent this." Thompson handed a letter to the judge. Coleman read it, her face growing paler with each line. "Your Honor," Thompson's voice grew harder, "Master Sergeant Walsh spent 5 years with the Activity, the Army's most classified intelligence unit. Her work was so sensitive that even her existence in the unit was need to know. She speaks 7 languages fluently. She's been behind enemy lines more times than most special forces operators. And she's sitting in your courtroom being accused of stolen valor by people who couldn't pass her unit's psychological evaluation, let alone their training. Stone tried to salvage something. General Thompson, with all due respect, how were we supposed to know? The Pentagon didn't respond to our requests. Because you didn't use proper channels, Colonel Mitchell, one of Thompson's aides, interjected. Classified personnel records don't go through normal FOIA requests. Any competent military lawyer would have known to contact the Special Operations Command directly. Thompson wasn't finished. Let me tell you about the night Master Sergeant Walsh earned her Silver Star, since Mr. Stone seems to think female soldiers can't earn such decorations. He pulled up another file. February 2019, northeastern Syria. Master Sergeant Walsh was attached to a Delta Force team as an intelligence specialist. Their position was overrun by a force 5 times their size. When the team leader was killed, Walsh took command. Not officially, she wasn't supposed to, but the Delta operators followed her lead because she knew the terrain and the enemy better than anyone. Thompson's voice grew quiet, forcing everyone to lean in. She held that position for 6 hours, 6 hours of continuous combat. She called in airstrikes danger close to their position. She redistributed ammunition when they ran low. She provided medical care to 4 wounded operators while still engaging the enemy. When extraction finally arrived, every single Delta operator was alive because of her decisions. He looked directly at Stone. Those Delta operators put her in for the Medal of Honor. It was downgraded to a Silver Star because the entire operation was classified. But every man on that team credits Diana Walsh with saving their lives. From her position, Diana could see the 2 VFW members in the gallery. They had removed their caps and held them over their hearts. "There's more," Thompson said, his voice now carrying an edge of anger. "Master Sergeant Walsh retired early not because she wanted to, but because of medical issues from her service. That shrapnel Mr. Stone mocked in his opening statement. It's still in her body, 3 pieces in her hip, 2 in her shoulder. Inoperable because of their location near major arteries." Martinez, Diana's attorney, finally found his voice. "General Thompson, why wasn't any of this information available when we requested it?" Thompson turned to him. "Because Master Sergeant Walsh never told you to request it through Special Operations Command. She never told you about the activity. She followed her security oath even while facing these charges. She was willing to go to jail rather than reveal classified information without authorization." Judge Coleman finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. She was willing to be convicted rather than break classification. "Yes, Your Honor," Thompson confirmed. "That's the kind of soldier Diana Walsh is, the kind who protects national security even at personal cost." Diana felt tears threatening. She'd spent 3 months being called a liar, a fraud, watching friends turn away, losing job opportunities, all because she couldn't say, "I was in a unit so secret it doesn't officially exist." Thompson pulled out another document. "This is from the President of the United States, declassifying Master Sergeant Walsh's service record for the purpose of these proceedings." He handed it to Judge Coleman. "The President was rather upset when he learned about this situation. Master Sergeant Walsh personally provided intelligence that prevented an assassination attempt on a cabinet member. The details remain classified, but the President remembers those who serve." The judge read the presidential letter, her hands shaking slightly. "Now," Thompson's voice became steel, "let's discuss how we got here. A traffic stop. Officer James Crawford pulled over Master Sergeant Walsh for going 5 miles over the speed limit. When he saw her military ID, he accused it of being fake because he didn't recognize the security clearance markers. Instead of verifying through proper channels, he arrested her for impersonation." Thompson pulled out his phone and showed a photo to the court. "This is Officer Crawford at a Stolen Valor social media group meeting, where he brags about catching fake soldiers. He has 17 false arrests for stolen valor in the past 2 years. 17 veterans harassed and arrested because Crawford didn't understand military IDs." Stone was sweating now. "General, we relied on the officer's report." "You relied on incompetence and bias," Thompson cut him off. "You never wondered why someone would fake being a master sergeant, not a general, not a Navy SEAL, but a mid-level NCO? You never questioned why her story was so consistent, so detailed. You never considered that the classification she claimed might be real." Diana watched Stone shrink in his chair. This was the man who'd spent 3 months painting her as a pathological liar seeking attention. Master Sergeant Walsh, Thompson addressed her directly. The Army failed you. The system failed you. You served with distinction and honor, and your reward was to be dragged through this courthouse like a criminal. On behalf of the United States Army and the Department of Defense, I apologize. Diana's composure finally cracked. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Your Honor, Thompson turned back to Judge Coleman, I trust all charges will be immediately dismissed. Judge Coleman sat frozen, the presidential letter trembling in her hands. The courtroom was so quiet that everyone could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead. The judge started, then stopped. She removed her glasses, rubbed her eyes, and looked at Diana with an expression of dawning horror. Master Sergeant Walsh, I owe you an apology. This court owes you an apology. Stone stood up, his face flushed. Your Honor, while General Thompson's testimony is compelling, we need to verify these documents. Sit down, Mr. Stone, Judge Coleman's voice cracked like a whip. You've done quite enough. General Thompson wasn't finished. Actually, Your Honor, there's more that needs to be addressed. He pulled out a thick folder. We've conducted our own investigation over the past 72 hours. What we found is disturbing. He turned to face Stone directly. Mr. Stone, you received a tip about Master Sergeant Walsh from someone named Bradley Kehoe, correct? Stone's face went pale. That's privileged information. Not when it involves a conspiracy to defame a military service member, Thompson replied. Bradley Kehoe is Master Sergeant Walsh's former brother-in-law. He's held a grudge since she testified against him in his custody hearing, where she revealed his domestic violence history. Diana's head snapped up. Brad, she should have known Brad was behind this. Kehoe fed you false information, Thompson continued. He claimed to have proof that Walsh was never in the military. That proof was fabricated. He also paid Officer Crawford $5,000 to make the arrest stick. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Judge Coleman's face flushed deep red. That's slander, Stone protested. It's fact, Thompson replied calmly. We have the bank records. We have the text messages. Officer Crawford, by the way, was arrested this morning by federal agents. Turns out that falsely arresting veterans for stolen valor while taking bribes is a federal crime. Colonel Mitchell stepped forward with a laptop. Your Honor, we have Officer Crawford's confession video if you'd like to see it. Judge Coleman nodded mutely. The screen showed Crawford looking haggard in an interrogation room. I knew the ID was probably real, Crawford's recorded voice admitted. But Kehoe said she'd embarrassed his family, said she was unstable, dangerous. He paid me to arrest her, make it stick. I figured even if she was military, she was just some desk jockey playing hero. I didn't know she was the real thing. The video stopped. Diana felt sick. 3 months of hell because her former brother-in-law couldn't accept that she'd told the truth about him hitting his wife. There's still more, Thompson said, his voice now carrying real anger. Mr. Stone, you didn't just prosecute this case. You turned it into a media circus. You gave 17 interviews claiming Master Sergeant Walsh represented a crisis of stolen valor in America. You used her case to promote your upcoming book about fake military heroes. Stone's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Thompson pulled out a tablet and showed headlines. Local woman's fake military service exposed. Prosecutor reveals stolen valor epidemic. Why do they lie? The psychology of false heroes. Each of these articles quoted you, Mr. Stone, Thompson said. You turned Master Sergeant Walsh into a public pariah. She lost her job at the Veterans Administration because of your statements. She was evicted from her apartment because her landlord didn't want a fraud living there. She received death threats from people who believed your lies. Diana remembered those threats, the emails saying she deserved to die for disrespecting real veterans. The phone calls at 3 in the morning telling her what happened to people who stole valor. Your Honor, Thompson addressed the judge, Master Sergeant Walsh didn't just serve her country in combat. She came home and continued serving, working at the VA helping other veterans with PTSD. She volunteered at the homeless shelter. She taught self-defense classes to military spouses for free. And this court, this prosecutor, and this system took all of that away based on lies and prejudice. Judge Coleman looked sick. Master Sergeant Walsh, please approach the bench. Diana walked forward, her bearing still military perfect despite everything. I've been a judge for 20 years, Coleman said quietly. I've made mistakes, but nothing like this. You stood here while I insulted you, demanded you remove your medals, called you pathetic, and you maintained your composure and dignity throughout. The judge's voice broke. How? Diana spoke for the first time in minutes. Your Honor, I've been in worse situations. I've been interrogated by terrorists, tortured for information. This was just another mission, endure and survive. The judge flinched as if slapped. You compared this courtroom to torture. No, Your Honor, torture was easier. At least then I knew I was facing enemies. Here I was being attacked by the system I spent 15 years defending. Several people in the gallery were crying now. Mrs. Chen had her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. General Thompson spoke again. There's one more thing, Your Honor. Master Sergeant Walsh never told you about her most recent commendation because it hadn't been announced yet. He pulled out an official document. 3 weeks ago, the intelligence community awarded her the National Intelligence Medal of Valor. It's the highest award given by the intelligence community. She earned it for an operation last year, while she was supposedly just a desk jockey at the VA. Diana's breath caught. She hadn't known about the medal. Even in retirement, Thompson explained, Master Sergeant Walsh was consulting for the Defense Intelligence Agency. 6 months ago, she identified a pattern in veteran suicides that turned out to be murders by a foreign agent targeting former intelligence operatives. Her analysis saved 12 lives. Stone stood up abruptly. I need to speak with my office. Sit down, Mr. Stone, Judge Coleman ordered. We're not done here. General Thompson is the Department of Defense planning to take any action regarding this case. Yes, Your Honor. We're filing charges against Bradley Kehoe for conspiracy, bribery, and false statements to law enforcement. We're also investigating Mr. Stone's office for potential civil rights violations, and we're requesting that all records of these proceedings against Master Sergeant Walsh be expunged. Granted, Judge Coleman said immediately. All charges against Master Sergeant Walsh are dismissed with prejudice. The record will reflect that she was wrongfully accused and that this court deeply regrets its role in this injustice. But Thompson wasn't done. Your Honor, there's also the matter of damages. Master Sergeant Walsh lost her job, her apartment, and her reputation. She's been living in her car for the past month because no one would rent to her. The VA, her employer, fired her based on Mr. Stone's public statements, despite her exemplary service record with them. Diana felt her face burn. She hadn't wanted anyone to know about living in her car. Furthermore, Thompson continued, Master Sergeant Walsh has been under medical care for service-connected PTSD. This ordeal has significantly worsened her condition. Her therapist reports that she's had setbacks that erased 2 years of progress. Thompson pulled out another document. This is a lawsuit being filed by the Department of Justice on behalf of Master Sergeant Walsh against the County of Riverside, the prosecutor's office, and Bradley Kehoe personally. The amount sought is $15 million. Stone jumped up. That's outrageous. What's outrageous? Thompson's voice boomed. Is that a woman who spent 15 years protecting this nation, who has shrapnel in her body that causes daily pain, who saved hundreds of lives through her intelligence work, was sleeping in her car because you decided to make her a villain for your career advancement. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Reporters rushed for the doors, phones already out, desperate to be first with the story. Stone was on his phone, his face pale as he presumably spoke with his superiors. Judge Coleman was banging her gavel, trying to restore order. Everyone sit down, the judge shouted. We are not finished here. Gradually, the room quieted. General Thompson remained standing, his presence commanding even in the chaos. Your Honor, Martinez, Diana's attorney, finally spoke up. I would like to address my own failure in this matter. I should have pushed harder for military verification. I should have recognized the classification issues. Master Sergeant Walsh deserved better representation than I provided. Diana looked at the young lawyer with surprise. He tried his best with what he had. Mr. Martinez, General Thompson said, you were working with incomplete information because Master Sergeant Walsh honored her security oath. That's not your failure. It's a testament to her integrity. Judge Coleman addressed Diana directly. Master Sergeant Walsh, is there anything you'd like to say to this court? Diana stood slowly, feeling every eye in the room on her. For 3 months she'd been silent. Now, finally, she could speak. Your Honor, she began, her voice steady, I joined the Army when I was 18. Not for glory or medals, but because I wanted to serve something greater than myself. Every mission I undertook, every risk I took was for one reason, to protect American lives and interests. She paused, looking at Stone. Mr. Stone painted me as someone seeking attention and fame, but I've turned down book deals, movie offers, and speaking engagements. I've never once used my service for personal gain. I just wanted to continue serving quietly, helping other veterans at the VA. Her voice grew stronger. But this experience has shown me something. Staying quiet, staying classified, sometimes does more harm than good. How many other veterans have been accused of stolen valor because their records are restricted? How many have suffered in silence because they can't prove their service? She turned to the gallery where the two VFW members sat. You gentlemen believed I was a fraud. I don't blame you. You were protecting the honor of real service. But perhaps we need to reconsider how we verify and validate service, especially in an era of classified operations. One of the men stood up. Ma'am, I owe you an apology. I sat here agreeing with the prosecution, thinking you were everything wrong with modern society. I was wrong, dead wrong. The other veteran stood as well. Master Sergeant, would you accept our apology? Diana nodded. Of course, you were defending what you thought was right. That's honorable, even if misdirected. General Thompson pulled out his phone. Your Honor, I have someone who'd like to address the court via video call, if permitted. Judge Coleman nodded. The screen lit up, showing a man in a hospital bed, bandaged but alert. Diana gasped. She recognized him, Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, one of the Delta operators from Syria. Your Honor, Morrison said through the video connection, I'm currently at Walter Reed, recovering from injuries sustained last month in Iraq. But when I heard what was happening to Master Sergeant Walsh, I had to speak up. His voice was strained but determined. That night in Syria, when she took command, I was skeptical. Here was an intelligence analyst telling Delta Force operators what to do. But she knew things we didn't. She knew the enemy's patterns, their tactics. She positioned us perfectly for defense. When our ammunition ran low, she had already calculated redistribution down to the last magazine. Morrison paused, clearly in pain but continuing. I've served with the best operators in the world, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Marine Raiders. Diana Walsh belongs among them. The fact that she was intelligence branch doesn't diminish what she did. If anything, it makes it more impressive. Another figure appeared on screen beside Morrison. Diana recognized him too, Command Sergeant Major Williams, now retired. Master Sergeant Walsh, Williams said, I was the senior NCO on that operation. I've written a letter to the Secretary of Defense recommending you for the Distinguished Service Cross to be upgraded to the Medal of Honor. What you did that night went beyond valor. It was tactical genius combined with extraordinary courage. Diana felt tears flowing freely now. These men, elite operators who'd initially resented having an intelligence attachment, were now publicly defending her. There's more, Your Honor, Williams continued. 17 operators from various special operations units have signed a petition requesting that Master Sergeant Walsh be given honorary membership in the Special Operations Association. That's unprecedented for someone who wasn't officially Special Operations. General Thompson took back control. Your Honor, what happened in this courtroom represents a systematic failure. Officer Crawford's bias against women in combat roles. Mr. Stone's ambition overriding due diligence. And respectfully, this court's readiness to believe the worst without proper verification. Judge Coleman nodded, her face etched with shame. You're absolutely right, General. This court failed Master Sergeant Walsh. She turned to Diana. I will personally ensure that your record is not just expunged, but that a formal apology is issued by this court. Additionally, I'm recommending Officer Crawford and Prosecutor Stone for immediate investigation by the California Bar Association. Stone stood up, his career crumbling before his eyes. Your Honor, I was acting on information I believe to be credible. You were acting on ambition, Coleman cut him off. You saw a high-profile case that could make your career. You never once considered that you might be wrong. The judge continued. I'm also ordering the immediate restoration of Master Sergeant Walsh's position at the VA, with back pay and damages for wrongful termination. Mr. Stone, your office will issue a public apology and retraction of all statements made about Master Sergeant Walsh. From the gallery, someone started clapping. It was Mrs. Chen, Diana's former neighbor. Others joined in, and soon the entire courtroom was applauding. Diana stood there, overwhelmed, as the same people who had believed her a fraud now honored her service. General Thompson raised his hand for silence. "There's one final matter. Master Sergeant Walsh, would you please stand at attention?" Diana complied, confused. Thompson pulled out a medal case. "By order of the Secretary of Defense, I'm authorized to present you with the Meritorious Service Medal for your actions during this ordeal. Your maintenance of security protocols, despite personal cost, represents the highest ideals of military service." He pinned the medal to her uniform, then stepped back and saluted. The colonels saluted. Morrison and Williams saluted on screen. Every veteran in the courtroom stood and saluted. Diana returned the salutes, tears streaming down her face. 3 months ago, she'd been called a fraud and a liar. Now she stood vindicated, honored by those whose opinion mattered most, her fellow service members. "Your Honor," Thompson said, "we need to discuss the security implications of what's been revealed here today. Much of Master Sergeant Walsh's service record must remain classified. The media cannot be allowed to publish operational details." Judge Coleman nodded. "I'm issuing a gag order on all classified information revealed in this proceeding. Any violation will result in federal prosecution." As the judge spoke, Diana felt her phone vibrate. She glanced at it, a message from her sister, Sarah. "Saw the news. Brad's been arrested. I'm so sorry for what he did. You saved my life when you testified about his abuse, and this is how he repaid you. Please forgive me." Diana typed back, "Nothing to forgive, you're safe, that's all that matters." 6 weeks later, Diana stood in the Pentagon's Hall of Heroes, surrounded by the highest-ranking members of the military. The room was packed with service members, intelligence officials, and selected media. This time, the attention was different. It was respectful, honoring rather than accusatory. General Thompson stood at the podium. "We're here today not just to honor Master Sergeant Diana Walsh, but to acknowledge a systematic failure that nearly destroyed one of America's finest warriors." Diana wore her dress uniform, every medal properly placed, including the new ones she'd received since the trial. The Intelligence Medal of Valor gleamed next to her silver star. "The case of Master Sergeant Walsh has led to significant reforms," Thompson continued. "The Department of Defense has established a new verification system for classified service records. No veteran will again face false stolen valor charges because their service was too secret to verify through normal channels." In the audience, Diana spotted Paul Martinez, her former attorney. He'd quit the public defender's office and started a nonprofit providing free legal services to veterans facing similar situations. Beside him sat Judge Coleman, who had personally requested to attend. "Additionally," Thompson announced, "Congress has passed the Walsh Act, making it a federal crime to knowingly make false stolen valor accusations for personal gain or revenge. Bradley Kehoe's prosecution will be the first under this new law." Diana thought about Brad, now facing 10 years in federal prison. She felt no satisfaction, only sadness that his hatred had consumed him so completely. The Secretary of Defense stepped forward. "Master Sergeant Walsh, your story has sparked a national conversation about how we treat our veterans, especially those whose service remains classified. You've turned personal injustice into systemic reform." He pulled out an official document. "The President has authorized me to inform you that your security clearance has been reinstated at the highest level. The Defense Intelligence Agency wants you back, not just as a consultant, but as the Deputy Director of the new Classified Veterans Affairs Division." Diana's breath caught. Deputy Director. It was a position usually reserved for full colonels or civilian executives. "Your job," the Secretary continued, "will be to ensure that no veteran with classified service ever faces what you faced. You'll have the authority to verify service records, provide legal support, and protect those who can't protect themselves because of security restrictions." "I accept," Diana said without hesitation. General Thompson smiled. "There's more. Master Sergeant Walsh, you've been selected for promotion to Sergeant Major. Additionally, you're being inducted into the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame, the youngest person ever to receive this honor." The audience erupted in applause. Diana saw Morrison in the front row, still recovering but present. Beside him sat Williams and 6 other operators from that night in Syria. They'd all come to support her. After the ceremony, Diana was surrounded by well-wishers. Richard Stone approached hesitantly. He'd been disbarred and faced criminal charges, but the court had allowed him to attend this ceremony as part of his plea agreement. "Master Sergeant Walsh," he said, unable to meet her eyes. "I know apologies are worthless after what I did, but I need you to know I've never been more wrong about anything in my life. I let ambition and bias override basic human decency." Diana studied him. He'd lost everything: his career, reputation, freedom. "Mr. Stone, I hope you learn from this. Veterans face enough challenges without having to prove their service to people who should support them." He nodded and walked away, a broken man. Mrs. Chen approached next, tears in her eyes. "Diana, you lived next door to me for 2 years. You helped with my groceries, fixed my car, never asked for anything in return. And when that prosecutor said those terrible things, I believed him. I'm so ashamed." Diana hugged the elderly woman. "You believed what you were told by authority figures. That's human nature. What matters is that you know the truth now." Judge Coleman was next. "Master Sergeant Walsh, I've resigned from the bench. I realized that if I could be so wrong about you, how many others have I misjudged? I'm going back to school to study military law and veteran affairs. Maybe I can make amends by helping other veterans." "That's admirable, Your Honor," Diana said, meaning it. As the crowd thinned, General Thompson approached with a small group. "Diana, there are some people who have been waiting to meet you." 3 women stepped forward, all in military uniforms. The first introduced herself as Captain Jennifer Hayes, Army Intelligence. "Master Sergeant, I was accused of stolen valor last year. My records were classified and I couldn't defend myself. I almost gave up. Then I saw your story on the news. You gave me hope. The Walsh Act helped clear my name." The second woman, Navy Lieutenant Commander Patricia Wang, spoke next. "I was a SEAL support specialist. Nobody believed a woman could work with SEALs. Your case has changed how people see us." The third, Air Force Major Rachel Martinez, added, "I flew classified reconnaissance missions. Lost a job because I couldn't verify my service. Your foundation, the one started after your case, helped me get legal representation." Diana hadn't known about any foundation. Thompson explained, "Veterans across the country have donated to create the Diana Walsh Foundation for Classified Service Verification. It's raised $3 million in 6 weeks." As the evening wound down, Diana found herself alone with Thompson on a Pentagon balcony overlooking Arlington Cemetery. "You know," Thompson said, "most people would have broken under what you endured. The public humiliation, the financial devastation, the betrayal by the system you served." Diana looked out at the rows of white headstones. "General, I've left friends in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, good people who died believing in something greater. Giving up would have dishonored their sacrifice. Still, living in your car, being called a fraud." "Physical discomfort is temporary," Diana interrupted. "But abandoning principles is permanent. I knew the truth. That had to be enough." Thompson handed her an envelope. "This came through diplomatic channels. It's from Ahmed Rahman, the Afghan interpreter you saved during Operation Lightning Strike." Diana opened it with trembling hands. She remembered Rahman, barely 18, caught in an ambush meant for her unit. "Dear Master Sergeant Walsh," the letter read, "I saw the American news about your trial. I wanted to testify, but my visa was denied. You saved my life and my family's lives. Because of you, my children go to school in safety in Germany now. You told me once that courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite fear. You showed this in war and now in peace. You remain my hero." Diana wiped away tears. This made everything worth it. As they walked back inside, Diana's phone rang. It was the VA director. "Sergeant Major Walsh," he said, using her new rank, "we have your old job back plus a promotion. But more importantly, we're implementing the Walsh Protocol, a new system to protect employees with classified backgrounds. You've changed how we operate." After ending the call, Diana realized the profound transformation her ordeal had sparked. Laws had changed. Policies had been rewritten. Support systems had been created. Her suffering had become a catalyst for protecting others. The next morning, Diana reported to her new office at the Defense Intelligence Agency. On her desk was a plaque. "Deputy Director Diana Walsh, protecting those who protected us." Her first day was busy with meetings, policy reviews, and case files. By noon, She'd already identified 3 veterans facing similar false accusations and dispatched legal support. A knock on her door interrupted her work. A young soldier entered, nervous and unsure. "Ma'am, I'm Specialist Jennifer Thompson. I'm being accused of lying about my service in a custody hearing. My ex-husband says my Bronze Star is fake because women don't earn Bronze Stars. I can't verify my record because it's classified. Can you help?" Diana stood, walked around her desk, and put her hand on the young woman's shoulder. "Specialist Thompson, you're safe now. We're going to verify your service, protect your custody rights, and ensure no one questions your honor again." As Thompson left with renewed hope, Diana reflected on her journey. From that courtroom where she'd been mocked and humiliated to this office where she could protect others, it had been a painful but necessary path. Her computer chimed with a news alert. Bradley Kehoe sentenced to 8 years federal prison for conspiracy against decorated veteran. Diana felt no joy at Brad's conviction, only relief that justice had been served. But the real justice wasn't his punishment, it was the system changes that would protect future veterans. As the sun set over Washington, Diana worked late into the night, reviewing cases, establishing protocols, building networks to protect those who had protected America. Each case file represented a warrior whose service was questioned, whose sacrifice was doubted. Her phone buzzed with a text from General Thompson. "First day going well." "Better than expected," she replied. "Already helping 3 veterans, this is what I was meant to do." "You've earned this position through fire and trial," he responded. "Never forget that your lowest moment led to systematic change that will protect thousands." Diana looked at her medals, displayed now in a frame on her wall. Each one told a story of service, sacrifice, and survival. But the greatest medal wasn't made of metal. It was the opportunity to ensure no veteran would suffer what she had endured. Standing at her window, looking out at the Capitol dome lit against the night sky, Diana made a promise. Every veteran with classified service would have an advocate. Every warrior accused of stolen valor would get proper verification. Every soldier who served in shadows would have someone fighting for them in the light. The woman who had been ordered to remove her medals as fake now stood as the guardian of those whose service couldn't be publicly acknowledged. The courtroom that had tried to break her had instead forged her into something stronger, a protector of protectors, a voice for the silent warriors. As she prepared to leave for the night, one final email arrived. It was from a young female intelligence analyst currently deployed in a classified location. "Sergeant Major Walsh, I just wanted you to know that your story saved my life. I was ready to give up, to leave the service because nobody believed I was doing anything important. Then I heard about you. You showed me that our service matters, even if it's classified. Thank you for taking the hits so we don't have to. You're the reason I'm staying strong." Diana smiled, tears of gratitude replacing those of pain from months ago. This was her mission now, not gathering intelligence in hostile territory, but protecting those who did. Not fighting enemies abroad, but defending heroes at home. The judge had ordered her to remove her medals, calling them fake. Now she stood as the ultimate verification that service comes in many forms, that heroism doesn't always happen in public view, and that sometimes the greatest courage is simply refusing to give up when the whole world calls you a liar. The woman who had been mocked in a California courtroom now held the power to ensure it would never happen to another veteran. The medals on her chest had been validated not just by a general's testimony, but by the systematic changes her case had inspired. Diana Walsh had been ordered to remove her medals. Instead, she had removed the barriers that prevented classified veterans from proving their service. And that was the greatest victory of all.